The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our latest webinar on combining the power of BI and GIS for valuable insights using Sisense and Safe Software. My name is Kieran Kirk. I'm the Operations Director with IMGS, and with me this morning I've got Gavin Park, who is our Lead Solutions Consultant, and Aditya Dote, who is our Pre-Sales Consultant. Morning, guys. They're on mute.
Morning.
Morning. Morning. So this is the power of COVID living these days. So Aditya, you're in India. Gavin, you're somewhere in the UK, and I'm in Dundalk. So global company we are now these days. But this is the joy of remote working, and we hope this webinar is interesting for everybody, and we hope all the comms and technology all stands up. And in the background, Tanya and Garrett are also keeping an eye on the technology and everything. So there is a chat panel. So if you have any questions, please put them into the chat and into the question panel, and then they'll be submitted and we'll review them at the end of the session. So this morning, I know we have a combination of people. It's a very interesting webinar. So we have people who are coming from an analytics background who are on the session, and then we have people who are coming from a GIS background. So some of you will be very aware of FME and Safe Software, and some of you will be very aware of Sisense and BI. But today we're bringing both technologies together. So hopefully those who are experts in Sisense will bear with us while we go through that product, and those who are experts in FME will bear with us as we go through some of the basics. But actually, what we are going to show in FME today is some really advanced capabilities that have been developed in the releases this year and last year with FME, and also some of the latest technology Sisense blocks in Sisense. So in IMGS, we have what's called our location intelligence platform, and we're going to talk about that solution today. So as I mentioned, we'll be talking about Safe Software. So Safe Software FME server will be used to integrate the data. So the demonstration we're going to show is actually pretty current these days. It's using actual UK COVID-19 data. So we've taken that from or Gavin has taken that from a UK open data website, sucked that data in using FME and published it to Snowflake. So Snowflake is the first data warehouse designed for the cloud, and it's a fantastic data warehouse. It's really changing the market, and we are delighted to be a partner of Snowflake. And this year, FME have released a writer and writer for Snowflake. So again, we're bringing all these technologies together. And then we're going to visualize this data in Sisense. So we're going to see the data in dashboards in Sisense, not just normal graphs and charts, but also using maps. And those maps are going to come via GeoJSON generated by FME. But we're going to use FME today to close the loop. So when you are analyzing the analytics in Sisense and you want to create an action and you want to create a workflow, you can then use FME to build workflows once you see the action you need to take in Sisense. So using Sisense blocks and FME, we're going to build actions and build workflows, so to take your insights onto another level. So a quick introduction into the FME platform. And FME consists of three components, and it's called the Feature Manipulation Engine. So it has been an ETL solution for 20 years, and the core part of that solution is FME Desktop. And FME Desktop is a desktop product where you can build and run workflows, where you can take data from one location, transform it, and move it to another location and another format, and do a lot of very powerful things with it on the way through. FME Server brings that to another level because it brings it to a level of automation through the web server version. So in it, you can then remove the need for manual intervention and automate these workflows. And that's the big part we're going to show today, how we can automate the data in and the actions out of Sisense. And FME Cloud is just FME Server hosted for you as a SaaS system in the cloud. So it's just FME Server running in the cloud. With FME, you can connect to your data sources transform your data and automate your workflows. And the real power of FME and where it's unique in the market is in its GIS, translation, transformation, enhancement capabilities. And again, today, we'll show how we can enhance the insights into Sisense by integrating it with spatial workflows through FME. So by having very leading, really powerful insights with normal analytics and alerting in Sisense, but enhancing that with spatial reporting, spatial querying coming through FME. With FME, some of the functionalities, some of the more newer functionalities we're going to show today is FME server automations. So again, any of you guys who've been using FME server maybe a few years ago remember the old publication subscription methodology that they've had for FME servers, which was a bit confusing and a bit hard to understand. In the last 2 years, SAFE have re-engineered how FME server works, and it's now based on automations. So if something happens, then do something. That something happens is what we call a trigger. So that trigger could be a file being put into a directory, or a schedule kicking off, or an email coming in, or some kind of system event, or something else happening in the FME world. And then the actions can be to run another FME process, or to merge some workflows, or to email, or to call a HTTP request, or to call a web service, or to move data to Dropbox, S3, or Azure, or even to call social media. And again, we'll show you some great things Gavin has done today, where we're actually calling Microsoft Teams. So again, bringing these kind of things on when you find some data, when something happens, that we can then chain workflows and chain events to occur afterwards automatically. With FME server as well, with the 2019 and 2020 release, they've added notification process. So again, if anything happens on the FME server, that you can be notified of it. So this could be if a process fails, if you're managing jobs, automatically send and receive emails, to analyze emails coming in, whether it's the subject, attachment, or the body, and to do automatic validation and processing. One part that Gavin is going to talk about today and what Aditya has integrated with is the FME webhook capabilities. So in FME, a webhook enables third-party software to programmatically run a workspace. So that's what we're going to show you today. So we're going to show how using Sisense blocks, which I'll explain later on, it can then trigger through a webhook FME to run. So when somebody clicks on a button in the dashboard, they're then able to fire off workflows in FME server. So in this case here, it's this app is a sign inspection app. It's allowing someone fill in a form, fill in the data, and then it's going to be pushed up to FME server, and that information is sent up to the system. So we're taking a report and we're passing it back. And this is the real power now with FME, is that we can wait for these things to happen. So somebody has done an inspection, could be something like survey 1, 2, 3, I'm not sure what that is in this case. Whatever application is running, that information can then be sent up, and the webhook can then automatically pick it up and do something inside the system and push that information back in. So once the data is synced up here, the webhook will then fire. You can see now Gavin has sent an email because the webhook is fired, and it's fired into the Outlook to say, we've got your new record. There's the picture. We've taken it in. All that's automated. No need for somebody to do the work. So that's the big power of webhooks, is having that level of automation that we haven't had before, and that level of integration with other applications. FME has always been fantastic at integrating data, but this now brings it to another level where you can integrate with third-party apps. With FME as well, we have the ability to create static spatial reports. So whether these are on demand or scheduled, whether they're interactive or responsive, they can be on dynamic on the desktop, and they can be in all sorts of formats: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF, HTML, and CSV. So a lot of people, when they do their analytic, they want to be able to take that information, send it to somebody as a state of play, a snapshot of what happened that day. So again, we're going to show you how FME can, once the dynamic insight has been generated in Sisense, can go off, do some work, do some additional analysis, and then create static reports which can be for reference for future. Brief talk about Sisense. So Sisense to deliver insights on complex, so usually better. So that's the important point. Complex data to make insight. That's the bit we want to show you today. So Sitesense Analytics platform comprises of three components. Sorry, my audio seems to be getting worse. Three components: the cloud data for teams, product teams, and BI and analytics teams. So with those products, you can, the cloud data for teams is what used to be known as Periscope. So it was the Sisense product that Sisense acquired, Periscope. And with that, that's where you have the ability to do cloud-based analytics. And it's really designed for coders and programmers who want to be able to run SQL and run Python and create analytics. Sisense for product teams is where you want to be able to white label or OEM analytic products and white label them to your own brand, to your own market message. And then finally, Sisense for BI and analytics teams is what we would call this the standard BI system where you can create your dashboards and share them across the organization. So Sisense have three core products. Cloud data teams, which runs purely in the cloud and is designed for data scientists who want to be able to run SQL, who want to be able to run Python and code like that. Sisense for product teams is really the BI and analytics product, but it's been able to white label and OEM that product to your own brand. And then Sisense for BI and analytics is the enterprise solution. So with Sisense, we can create interactive self-service dashboards and analytic apps to explore your action, explore your data, and take action. And again, the action here is key. Anybody can create a pretty picture. Anybody can create a pretty analytic. The key is to be able to have the dashboard that you can take action. So when you see something, when you get insight, that you can then take an action. With Sisense, they have invested long-term AI investments at the foundation. So they're using AI to help you power insights, to build analytic apps, and also there's a long-term investments in knowledge graph so that they eventually at Sisense will be able to be smart in how it's doing queries because it'll know from previous experience what queries, what users run, and what kind of insights they were trying to get. And with that, there's augmented analytic apps inside Sisense that can, with Pulse, drive alerts, create insights, and do machine learning, forecasting, and analytics. With Sisense, it's an open API-first platform that fits into any workflow and ecosystem. So again, going back to the cloud data for teams piece, the ability to white label, to integrate. So if you want to put your Sisense analytics inside another application, today we've done it the other way around. We've integrated into Sisense, but of course you can actually integrate Sisense to have a single seamless application and user experience. With Sisense, data can be taken from anywhere that runs everywhere. So Sisense can run in the cloud or on premise. In the last year, Sisense have released their Linux app solution. So now it can be run through things like Kubernetes, orchestrated for proper continuous integration and development. So it runs anywhere and it can take data from anywhere. So whether that's high performance databases like Snowflake that we're showing this afternoon, or Redshift or BigQuery, or whether that's file formats or on-premise databases or Hadoop. You know, Sisense can read data from anywhere, build dashboards which can run on any device, mobile, web, desktop, and give analysis beyond the dashboard. So with Sisense, we can simplify complex data. So the cloud data warehouses can be optimized workflows and power analytics. So even with Snowflake, you can use Sisense to create materialized views inside Snowflake, so to cut down your processing overhead inside Snowflake. And then they can mash up and accelerate this complex data and then scale it for crowds. Also, because it's easy to automate, because they can materialize, write SQL, and then use drag and drop AI, we can easily scale the system. So again, because of Sitesense also's inbuilt in-chip memory, you can grow to huge data sets and not have to have the big overhead and costs. And it goes, as I said already, goes beyond the dashboard, being able to create actionable analytic apps to power workflows and insights with custom analytic capabilities and flexible deployment. So again, hybrid architecture. And with that, we can generate insights for everyone. So augmented analytics. Now, some really cool things coming down the line, as in this year's release, is natural language querying. So you're in a dashboard and you don't know what query you want to run, but you can type it in English. So you might say, I want to know how much money we have or what our sales were. Well, with natural language querying, the system can actually interpret what you're saying and give you the answer. So being able to take the sense of what you're trying to say in English speak and then give you the answer in your analytic, which again just opens up that everybody can use your dashboards, that give that self-service capability to everyone. And with Sisense as well, there is the ability to do forecasting and prediction using the machine learning capabilities built in the product. A couple of really interesting insight for everyone capabilities that Sisense brings. One is pulse alerts. So you can add KPIs to your dashboards. So if you want to be notified if, for argument's sake, your water pressure on a valve drops below the minimum value, or if your sales per day aren't high enough, or whatever it is, you can attach an alert to that KPI to be notified. Don't have to run the dashboard. It'll just check and alert you. So again, not waiting to see a dashboard after the fact to figure out something went wrong. With Sisense, you can be very proactive in that. And also, which we're going to show you this morning, with Sisense, we can go beyond the dashboard to turn into actionable analytic applications from complex data. So being able to have that if you click on something in Sisense, that you can kick off a workflow. And that's exactly what Gavin and Aditya are going to show now in a few minutes. Finally, as I said, the data in the demonstration this morning is being stored in Snowflake. So Snowflake is the first data warehouse built for the cloud, and it's a complete SQL database, so you can write all the SQL scripting you want. Because it's a data warehouse as a service in the cloud, it requires zero management. So it removes the need for the DBA overhead. So because with Snowflake, it does all the vacuuming, it does all the IT infrastructure, scalability, everything is there. You don't have to have the overheads that you would have had before. Also means you can use all of your data. So again, whether it's relational data, non-relational, CSV, JSON, whatever, it can be brought into Snowflake, and you can provide it to all of your users, no matter where they are. Again, cloud system. With Snowflake, you also, as best cloud principles, only pay for what you use. And it's got a really, really interesting capability, which is live data sharing. So if you want to, say, provide data to another organization, and you don't want to have to go into the ETL process of taking that data out and extracting it to another database, you can provide secure access to that information through Snowflake. And again, you can restrict what data they see. All they need is their own Snowflake account, and they can access the information. So really interesting way of opening up data and removing the need for all these stovepipes and different databases and ETL processes. So with that, I'm now going to hand over to the guys who are going to give a demonstration of Sisense and Snowflake in action. So let me just make Aditya the presenter. Aditya, that's over to you.
Thanks, Karen, for the introduction on FME and Sisense. So Karen, sorry, can you share it because I can't find the option to share my screen as of now. If you might just make me a presenter, then.
Yeah, I've made you presenter. You have to be able to hit share your screen yourself, yeah.
Or maybe Tanya can do it because she.
I can see you.
Yeah, you can.
So on the sharing panel, Didier, you'll see show my screen. It's a big kind of play button. If you just press that in the drop down.
Now it's available. Sorry for that. Now it's available.
Good.
Yeah, I got that.
I hope. Yeah. So sorry. It happens when you are not sitting in the same room and have to operate it individually. But thanks.
It's the joy of COVID life. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken, for the introduction, and good morning, everyone. I'm Aditya, and I won't take much of time, and I'll quickly start with the Sisense part of the presentation. So you could see on my screen what we have is a final dashboard in Sisense, which is basically showing you the KPIs on the COVID-19 or the coronavirus situation across UK and its regions. So you could see that there are line graphs, representing numeric and logarithmic scales. There's a pie chart explaining, the new cases percentage-wise across the regions in England, and on the left-hand side, there's another widget which hosts, bar graph explaining the total cases across regions. And apart from the line graph, the time series graph, what we also have is a form widget. What it has on the right hand side is a geographic map which is presenting geographic information like the boundaries of the region, and it also has some data, the total cases in that region. And on the left you could see that there are certain options that you could provide input based on the data that you analyze, or based on the KPIs you are seeing here. And if you want to take some actionable if you want to take some actions and provide some information, or basically processes to the backend system to process. So I'll come back to this dashboard again, but I'll quickly take you to the data source as to how we got this data into Sisense. So if you see on the data tab panel, so there are two ways you could get your data into the Sisense. The first is elastic cube model, and the second is live models. We have, since we are using Snowflake as our data warehouse, so we are using live models, but then you could go for the elastic cube models as well, which are based on Inset technologies and can process millions of records in fraction of time. So it's easy to create a model. So just click on a model and provide a name for it, and then start getting your data from wherever source you want to. So before this webinar, what I did was I connected to my Snowflake account. So for connecting to Snowflake, you just have to provide your credentials, such as username, password, and the warehouse you would like to use in the schema, and just pass it in a JDBC URL, and then straight away you get connected to the warehouse. So if you could see on the left-hand side, this is what it's saying, that I have an FME development schema on my Snowflake bucket, and once you are connected to your data source in Sisense, you could also mash up your data before visualizing it. So what I'm doing here is I have 3 different tables in my Snowflake, which represents basically daily figures for these regions, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And in Sisense, I'm writing a query, and what it's doing is basically it's combining all the 3 sources and getting me a fact table, which holds the data for all the 3 different tables. Not only that, I have created a date dim dimension table for dates, and one for region name or area name, for example, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. And these dimensions are then joined using relationship to the fact table. So once you have this model in place, the data in place, you can start building your dashboard by creating widgets. So it also pretty straightforward and intuitive that you can click and create a new dashboard and get a widget into it. For the sake of simplicity, what I also have is a sample dashboard with a single widget for this webinar. And if you could see that it's a pie chart representing 3 regions as 3 dimensions, and the total number of cases that they have registered. Let's see how we can add more widget to this dashboard. As of now, it says a single widget. So it's, again, you click on a widget, you select the data. So as soon as you get your data into a data model in Sisense, you could see those here. So as seen before, we have a fact table and a dimension table. So let's select, a date column from our dim date table. And based on the data you selected, you automatically get options as to, recommended widgets that you could use on the data. If not, you could also go in advanced configuration and basically select the type of visualization or widget you would like to use. So since we already have a pie chart which basically aggregating our data, let's create a line chart. We already have given our date column as an input. Let's change it into day format so that we have basically dates in a time series format. In values, from my fact table, I'm selecting cases, so it will aggregate all the cases across all the regions for a particular date, and you could see that we now have a line chart. Now let's again break it by the region or by the dimension. So area, name, or the regions are the dimensions here, like the 3 dimensions for Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. So in Sisense, you, based on the widget type you select, you automatically get options as to what kind of data, measures, and dimensions you could put in. But also you could, design certain elements of your widget. For example, let's remove the grid lines from x-axis and y-axis, and let's convert the scale to logarithmic to make a widget a bit sharp. As soon as we click apply, so now this widget is available on our dashboard. So you could see that now we have pie chart widget with summarizing the data and time series data. Not only that, simply by clicking on a region, we could automatically filter out all the data across all the widgets in a particular dashboard. So as of now, what we are seeing is the data for Scotland region. So that's how we, using the same functionality and method, we created this dashboard. And the data that's available to us is from the data.gov.uk, which basically is being prepared by an FME process and put it into Snowflake, and from where I'm able to use it. Now, if I could show you some more functionalities that you can apply into your widget, one is narration. So if I click on this show button, so what you are seeing is an analysis or a narration of the widget, which is a bar graph here. So in widget, you could also enable narration, so which is an NLP-based feature. What it does is it automatically summarizes the data that's available, that's there in the widget, and present to you in a pretty neat format. And you could also then have an option to basically select as to an uptrend is preferable or a downtrend is preferable, and automatically you get the language accordingly. Moving on forward, the next bit that I would like to show is the blocks widget that Karen mentioned, and that's what has allowed us to integrate FME and Sisense together. So on the right hand side, what you are seeing is a map. Now it's a geographic map. It has basically 2 layers. The one is the map layer, which is the base layer, and that base layer I have created using Leaflet library. The base layer also has JavaScript functionalities that provides this an interactive feel when you provide the data into it. And the second layer is the data layer, which is GeoJSON layer, which again we have created using FME, and that data is pushed onto an Azure bucket. And the whole thing, then we have put it in an HTML page, and we have embedded it using the iframe functionality. If you might not be aware of what iframe is, but using the blocks, you could embed your web page. Say you might have a static web page, or you have a website, or a video on or somewhere on the internet. So you could embed it using iframe. So if I could show you without embedding, so that's what it looks like. This is the static page with the data layer on top of it, which is hosted in my S3 bucket, and the data layer, which is on, which basically is on Azure, and it's a GeoJSON file. All of this we are able to get into blocks using iframe, and not only that, using there are functionalities, there are snippets and blocks which you could use to then create input fields, which can take numbers, and then which can take data that you could then perform some action. So the idea was that seeing the KPIs and analyzing the data, we would like to perform some action based on the data that we have. So what we are seeing is for example, this Hampshire region, as compared to the other regions surrounding it, it has more cases that is highlighted. And what we should do is, if we could allot more PPE units or more medical supplies to the region, so that it can be better off handling the situation. So let's just quickly allocate, try to allocate some of the PPE resources that we have with us. And again, the data is on the Snowflake, and FME is in the backend is connecting the available PPE data from Snowflake into Sisense. So Hampshire was my region. So if I click on submit, so what's happening is that the inside or below this submit button, there is a webhook that is triggering, and that webhook is basically carrying the form data that we are able to fill in from here, and then the data is being taken into FME process, and then from there FME is picking up the data and performing updates to different system, and doing some other GIS operations that Gavin will explain in the now. So I'll basically hand it over to Gavin so that he could take us to the FME part of it. Gavin, if you.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Aditya. It's great. Yeah. Able to.
I have made you the present. Yeah, I have made you the presenter, so might have just got an option to. Okay.
The wonders of modern technology. Just to say, just as a quick overview, just to go through what we're going to show. Obviously, Aditya has designed the dashboards. He's built the dashboard there, which we can see on the left-hand side. And as he said, that's coming in to FME. And obviously, from FME, then we're able to trigger off a number of different actions. So in this case, we're triggering off kinds of notifications to alert people that the data's changed. We're also triggering some systems into sort of business management systems. So here, which is our Jira system in our case. But this could be something like Maximo. It could be Microsoft Dynamics. It can be anything really that you can start to interact with. We've also got the email sort of notifications and things on there as well as part of that. And as we say, we're writing back into the Snowflake database there and into Microsoft Azure as part of that process. So, from that one dashboard, we're going out to a multitude of different systems as part of this process. And also, and as Kieran's alluded to, these are all cloud platforms. And this has probably been one of the real beauties with what we've been looking at, is the fact that everything we're working with is cloud-based, which, in these times we're in, it's great for access. You haven't got to worry about setting up VPN connections, finding access to different servers, trying to get onto them. Everything straight into the cloud. All of these systems connect. There's none of that sort of normal IT challenges. It's very, very easy to get this set up. And it's also very, very easy to scale. So, you can start off quite small, and then you can start to extend and build out these different platform systems. So sort of Kieran's mentioned, obviously, we've got the FME Cloud there. We have our Snowflake. We have our Amazon Azure, Amazon S3, we're sort of sticking some data into. And things like Office 365, Jira, they're all those nice cloud platforms. They'll integrate very, very well together. And obviously then, as Aditya has just been showing you, we have our dashboard. So, this really gives us that common operating picture. So, we have all of our information on number of cases and things that are going on. But, for here, we're just sort of playing out the scenario with the PPE. So this can also include, information on what PPE you've got stored in different warehouses and things. So that kind of gives you that very high level view of what's going on with your data to get that intelligence that you can then start to send out. So in this case, a user can come in, can view all that information and say, well, actually, we can see quite clearly that Hampshire's got quite a high number of cases, but it's also still got quite a high number of current cases. Therefore, they're going to need all of that equipment. So, you can fill that in, allocate that and hit that and actually do some actions based on the information that you're seeing in that dashboard, whether it's the charts, the bars, graphs and things, the trends and things that are coming through it. You can observe all of that and then a human can make a decision and actually make some actions. And in this case, what it's going to do is it runs through and it's actually going to send in all of the requests coming into our Jira system. So it's gone away, it's done that analysis. It's said for Hampshire, well, we've got these hospitals, we need to send that information there. So, we're just logging it into the system here as an example, but that could actually be going into a dispatch system, for example. And you can see here the information that the DTA has put in is coming through into those records as well. So the information is getting passed across as part of that process. And it's also generating email alerts. So, originally we had these stock levels here, which were sent through the last alert. That new alerts come in and we've got our updated stock levels. So that's the current stock minus what a DTA has just dispatched. So somebody's got that as a little bit of information that they can use as part of that process. And again, they can jump back onto that dashboard. So it's just a very high level overview number, and they can then drill back into the dashboard, go and see what information's there. Again, if they want to, or it can link to a different dashboard with additional information and things in, so they can start to make decisions based on that information. It doesn't just have to be email. Email's always been the traditional route, but increasingly people are moving to more notification type systems. A lot of people are using things like Teams, Slack's one of the other really popular ones and things. You've got these kind of instant communication channels where you can push that content out that people can subscribe into, can quickly see. So, we've just linked in here a message into Teams to say, this is the latest information. You can have users start to react to this. And again, we've got that link back into that dashboarding to get back into the detail, just away from that initial alert. So somebody can look at that and go, oh, actually, that looks a little bit low. I'm a bit worried about those numbers. I'm going to jump back in, delve into that in a little bit more detail and things as part of that process. And we are all more mobile these days. So it doesn't just have to be into your desktop, into your laptop. You can get this pushed into your mobile phone. We have all these kind of apps on our devices that give you those sort of smartphone notifications. We can push them out to these smart speakers, platforms and things as well. And the beauty of Sisense is it's not just a one-way push of information out. We can get that information and then actually start to ask the Sisense dashboards for information through those speaker systems as well as part of it. So it's just giving us more and more ways to engage with that data, to get the information, to get to an actionable decision faster than we have been able to in the past. And again, we can send reports out as well as part of this process. So with this one, it's the same report information. We've got it as a HTML document here, but we could easily have that as a PowerPoint presentation, a Word document, an Excel report. And we can jump in, view this one. We've pushed this up to Azure, so anybody can share this. It could be OneDrive and things. But we've started to do some spatial analysis. We've said, we're interested in Hampshire, but what hospitals fall within Hampshire? Can we get that information out? Once we know that, we can start to look up the total availability of beds, for example, within there. We can look up the occupied number of beds. But also, because we're looking at the spatial component, we can start to say, well, actually, what is the population of Hampshire? That's going to have an impact on the number of available beds. If it's a very low populated area, we're not going to have to worry so much if it's more densely populated and things as well. So we can start to get those metrics and feed that into that decision-making process. And again, we've got the dispatch locations here. So we've got their full kind of addresses, contact numbers and things as part of that. So you can start to see that. And then having that, we can start to say, well, we've got our optimized delivery route now. The GIS software can go away, can derive that route. So we can start off with our depot there with all our PPE in, and then work out from the hospitals that we need to visit, what is the optimal route to do that? Push that out and actually generate that as part of that process as well and push that information through. And the beauty with this is it's all coming from that single one click. You know, somebody on the dashboard has just made the decision, looked at it, press go, and then all of this just cascades from that decision. So you can really have that chain of processes coming off that sort of quite simple action at the dashboard level by somebody making a decision based on the information that they're seeing. And what's really running behind this is what we call these FME automations. So this is the FME server interface that you'll see. You can go into the automations, and then this is basically all an automation is. So we have this webhook at the front that takes that information that DTA's put in. So when DTA's created that, he's assigned the webhook to his code. So when he hits that button, the information comes through. FME then just reacts to that, and this triggers this workflow. So what you've got is these little brown boxes that are basically FME processes. And we can put as many or as few of these into the processes we want. And also we can just build up that workflow. So the initial process takes our data in, processes it, and then pushes it into the different stages. And we have these log blocks as well. So we've got some sort of internal log data. And you'll also notice, if you are familiar with FME, this is new for 2020. We've got these little additional boxes underneath each of the main brown boxes. And that's really allowing us to send messages between systems. So rather than it just being a pure orchestration process, we're actually getting into to send disparate messages based on different workspaces around a workflow. So we can be really agile about the way we create these sort of workflows, what we connect to, you know, the multitude of systems is it's that sort of microservices type approach, but for sort of FME workspaces. So here, you know, we're taking that processed order, we're looking at that sort of PPE dispatch, doing all of that routing information as part of it, and then pushing that through to things like the Jira platform, into the alerting, and then into those sort of Teams alerts. And it's just a simple case of chaining these processes together. So it becomes very, very powerful, but it's actually very, very simple to actually build these processes and set them up as part of that. And if you're wondering what, you know, workspace is, if you've never seen an FME workspace before, essentially, again, it's just a workflow. And each of those little blue boxes is what we call a transformer, and they just perform actions on data as it flows through. So FME reads data in. So in this case, we're taking that sort of message request. We're looking up all of the local authority boundaries for the UK. We're looking at all the hospital locations and things, doing that spatial filtering, finding out which information is there, generating the routing. You know, we can bring in the road network as part of the process. And then we're also bringing in this case, critical care beds. You know, we can push that information out. So FME's got about 400 or 500 readers and writers these days. You know, it can read from all those different formats, bring it together, do a little bit of data analytics, and then start to push that information out again, all based on that original message from the dashboard. And then we've got the section there that creates those HTML reports. It's very quick to generate the HTML reports to be able to be very visually presented. And then we just write that data out. And in this case, we're writing it to Azure. We could be writing it to OneDrive, Amazon's S3, and things as part of our process. So we've got quite a lot of flexibility. And then we can just email that as well. So we can send that email through this workflow as well. And all that happens is you build that workflow and you publish that onto the FME server, and then that becomes part of your automation. It basically just gets triggered when you run that particular action and things as part of that process. You know, and that's a reasonably complicated workspace. You know, they can be very, very simple. So in this case, actually all we're really doing on the left here is picking up a message that we're passing through that automation, just doing some validation to make sure the message is valid, it's not got corrupt or anything. And then that transformer on the right is actually what handles all of the interactions with our Jira API. So, you know, even something that's quite a powerful connection can be very, very simple to implement. It's all just API driven. We're just taking the information, getting it into the right structure with the right security tokens, then pushing that up onto the Jira platform and things. And, you know, a lot of other systems like that are similarly quite simple to integrate with, you know, once you have everything structured, the right credentials and things set up. So it can be very, very easy to build out these processes as part of this workflow. And then as Aditya alluded to, obviously we're bringing this data in as well to keep it populated. So in this case, we're just running it on a schedule trigger. So the data that we're using gets updated daily, normally after kind of the big sort of national news briefings and things. So what we're doing is we have a schedule that just says, well, each evening, run the data or run the process, pick up that data, we're going to download it, we're going to process that into the Snowflake databases and things so that Sisense can use it. We do a little bit of data validation, data cleansing, creating some summary tables just to sort of make sure that data as it goes into Snowflake is clean and usable up front, and it's actually to a known standard and things as well. So we can remove out any information that's not relevant as part of that process. And then we're also updating the GeoJSON that Aditya showed you. So that's obviously what drives that map element. So again, yeah, we can update that to keep that current, and then we re-upload that onto either Azure or Amazon S3, so those web apps connect to it. And also, we never have to touch the web app. Every time that GeoJSON updates, the app will just pick up that latest GeoJSON when it runs and use that data. So again, it's very, very hands-off once the whole thing's running. It just means users aren't loading data, trying to find data. It's all there that they can use. They can make the decisions on. They can focus on actually delivering sort of best practice and things, and just making those useful decisions rather than worrying about where's my data set, trying to find an Excel spreadsheet and things. And then so lastly, here we do have that little bit of area reporting. So if anything does go wrong with the automation process, we can capture that. You can send that information to data experts and things, the system experts. They can pick that up, fix that, and again, it just removes some of those barriers to use and things, and makes the whole system a little bit easier to run. So it really does kind of get into that data zen. And if you're not an FME person, I apologize. We have this wonderful lizard, which is kind of the FME mascot, I guess. And this year they're sort of talking about how you can use it to basically become very much more zen with your data. But it is quite a good message around actually what this allows you to do is build complex workflows, pull them all together, automate that process, and then have that sit and just run transparently in the background so that you as the user, the dashboard person, can come in, can focus on the decisions they need to make and not worry about all that sort of data management and things in the background. So it's a very, very powerful tool set when you actually start to put all of these things together. You have the FME for the ETL, you've got the Snowflake for storing it, and then having that Sisense thing actually visualize the data and actually start to make decisions on it as well. It becomes quite powerful. So on that note, I shall hand back to Kieran, who can just summarize that for us.
Thanks, Gavin. That's excellent. Let's see now. Yeah, show my screen. Okay, and we're back. Everybody can hear me. Okay, so I think first off, just to say we have another webinar. So a lot of what Gavin was talking this morning was around the cloud, and we have a webinar later this month on the 28th of May. I think it's myself and Aditya this time are going to talk about migrating to the cloud with IMGS, and we'll be talking about our the talent data fabric and data governance platform for integrating and managing cloud data and moving information and pushing that data to Snowflake and then visualizing it in Sitesense. So if you did like some of the topics we're talking about this morning, we're going to expand on that whole cloud area in a little bit more detail and show you the power of Talent and Snowflake and Sisense working together. But this morning, what we've shown is with FME that webhooks, FME webhooks and Sisense blocks can deliver actionable analytics. So it's not just about creating a pretty dashboard or a pretty picture. Being able to take that information and do something with it. You've also seen Gavin has lightly touched on, but he's doing spatial reports. He's making spatial queries, bringing advanced GIS functionality into a powerful analytic capability tool like Sisense, but also then taking that to another level with FME and building these advanced workflows and actions and integrations. So taking the insights you get in Sisense and then bringing it to an end result, building workflows and integrations with other enterprise systems so that actually it's not just about a pretty picture, it's about achieving a result. So if there is a shortage of X, if we're overrunning, if we have a problem somewhere, that the system kicks in. So we always talk about you're not going to get a flood or you're not going to get a broken piece of equipment or a major outage. Always happens at 3 o'clock in the morning or a Saturday evening or Sunday. So having a system like Sisense with FME powering the workflows in the background that can automatically kick in. So we didn't show it this morning. Aditya was showing how Sisense blocks can fire if someone enters in the value. But also with Sisense, we pulse alerts. So you can have it that Sisense automatically fires to FME, which then kicks off and does all the processes we showed you this morning. So really, really bringing analytics and bringing analytics, what I think is to be called now the third generation of analytics, not just pretty pictures, but actionable, deep insights, which lead into workflows. Tanya, are you able to join us? Have we any questions?
Hi, yeah, we have a few questions here. Is Sisense only available through the cloud, or can it be installed locally?
Yes, so Sisense can run on premise. So it supports both Windows and Linux. So pretty much Sisense provide a managed cloud service. So it can run in the cloud, it can run in a private cloud, or it can run on-prem.
Okay. Another one here. Is the integration with Teams only available in FME 2020?
Gavin, I'll let you answer that.
No, that's available in any of the basically last releases, probably for the last 5 or 6 years. So as long as you can make a HTTP request with the HTTP caller, you can integrate with Teams.
Very good. Yeah.
Okay, and
I love that, by the way, because we've all become big Teams users now. I think it's probably the most popular system now, but considering all the remote working and everybody just lives in Teams these days.
And we've a third and final question here. For these systems, where does the data reside? What are the options around data residency?
Okay, well, I think we've different options, don't we, Gavin? So I think with Sisense we can mash up data from anywhere, whether it's on-prem, but also with Snowflake we can choose where the data resides as well from a cloud point of view, can't we?
Yeah, so I think the Snowflake, we can choose which region we want to put the data in. So obviously if we want to keep it within the EU, we want to keep it within Ireland, we can obviously choose to put it there. The same with the FME cloud. So you can obviously have FME server on premise. If you want to use the cloud version like we've done here, again, you can choose to keep that in Ireland, to keep that in Europe and things. So you've got that sort of data governance, data security around it. And the same with Sisense, I believe.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, and Sisense does provide that level of governance, so you can control users and who access data from where and what they can mash up. And definitely, we're very lucky here in Ireland that we've got so many cloud data centers that are based in Ireland, so we actually can keep the data in country. But for customers who want to keep data on-prem and have some in the cloud, again, Sisense and FME are excellent at integrating that data and giving you that hybrid approach.
Sorry, we've just had one other question come in there. Is it able to add a geodatabase or a shapefile?
Yeah, so FME can connect to, I guess, sorry, Gavin, shouldn't this your area, but yeah, FME can connect to the geodatabase and the shapefile, and then that can be converted and brought into the Sisense dashboard. Again, Gavin, we've used GeoJSON and Aditya, but there's other options there for formats that we could have used, isn't there? What's that other?
Yeah, I mean, TopoJSON, it would be another one for the web. There's the Mapbox tiles, which is the new sort of Gucci one that everybody's quite excited about to bring these data layers in. So there's a vast range on kind of that web side of it. Obviously, we can create the map tiles to go under them as well. And then, yeah, on the back end, we can bring in, all of the common GIS formats, your major database formats and things as well. So we can start to bring that data through to integrate into both environments.
Definitely, yeah. And I like what is it? FME just connects to so many formats, all the spatial formats in the world, but also non-spatial. So again, if you're like, I think Sisense has a good range of connectors as well. So it's pretty powerful in what it can connect to, but also with FME that brings that spatial connectivity. So again, we can connect to Internet of Things, into GIS formats, CAD formats, even LiDAR data, AR data, virtual reality, 3D data, you name it. FME can bring that capability in.
Okay, that's great.
All right, that's great, Tanya. Okay, well, listen, I think we had a fantastic turnout this morning, so I hope everybody enjoyed the session. I'd like to thank Aditya and Gavin for all the hard work, because I just had to throw together a few slides. They do all the meeting and the work in the background, and Tanya and Garrett in the background for keeping everything going. I'd like to thank you all for coming. I hope you all staying safe. And oh, by the way, I nearly forgot. we are running a couple of events, hopefully, in the Q4. So we have the FME World Tour, which will be coming to Dublin, all willing, and will be in the Ashling Hotel. And we're also running a data intelligence event, which will be in, where's that, Tanya? That's in September, isn't it?
Yeah, the data intelligence is in the Ashling as well. It's on September 15th, I think, if my memory serves me correctly.
Okay, so we do 2 events and you can get to them on your website. So hopefully if we do get to see you face to face, that these things are, we can actually, we can do. So we look forward to that. So thanks everybody. Thanks guys. Thanks lads for all your support.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
And have a good day, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Gareth.